Joining me now, Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, the lead author of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Congresswoman Bass, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday Show.
Thank you for having me.
So I would love to have you respond to Senator Scott. Will things be wrapped up in a couple of weeks? And what are these suggestions that he has put forth?
Well, I certainly think things do need to be wrapped up. We've talked about these issues now for just about a year. And so there's a number of key topics that are important, I know, to Senator Scott. You know, one of them is his bill, the Justice Act, which we felt did not go far enough. And so you put the two pieces of legislation together and maybe ideas from other people. It might be an opportunity to address some issues we didn't address the first time, such as how you respond to people who are in a mental health crisis. So there's a lot on the table, and I am looking forward to wrapping this up soon.
Well, let's put up the provisions of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act so everyone can see.
Sure.
One of the main sticking points is the, right there, the first one, overhauls qualified immunity for officers. Last week, Senator Scott floated a suggestion that perhaps not having individual officers be open to lawsuit, but maybe having it be the police departments themselves be open to lawsuits by individuals. Is that an acceptable compromise to you?
Well, I'm not sure. What's most important to me and to others is that we have to find a way to hold officers accountable to prevent these shootings from occurring. And so you looked at Derek Chauvin, who just was looking at the cell phone camera, not a care in the world, because he felt he could respond, he could do what he did with complete impunity. He had numerous complaints against him. And so what can we do to prevent this from happening? And I do think that we need to look at training, you know, because I don't know the quality of the training, but maybe it's time to say more emphasis needs to be put on de-escalation. We need to look at other ways to address situations. I know that when police officers are trained to shoot, they're trained to shoot to kill, not to wound. So I think a lot needs to be examined in this time period.
And so in the negotiations with Senator Scott, I mean, really, how are they going? When I read the news reports and the news accounts of how things are going, the picture is pretty rosy. Is that an accurate reflection of what's happening?
Well, I think it is, but I do want to say that we have not started formal negotiations. Everything that's happened up until now has been relatively informal. And so for negotiations to be formal, we have to have the blessing of the leaders. And hopefully that will come in the next few days.
That is actually a key distinction, informal negotiations
Right.
as opposed to formal. So then, where's Speaker Pelosi? Is she ready for these negotiations to begin?
Oh, I think so. Speaker Pelosi has been supportive, if not adamant, from the beginning. She was so horrified by George Floyd's torture and murder that she definitely pushed us to move forward in the House, and she'll be there in support through the negotiations.
And what signals have you gotten, if any, that the Senate Minority Leader is willing to allow Senator Scott to move forward with formal negotiations?
Well, Senator Scott, I do not believe, is acting on his own. He is acting with the approval and support of his leadership. And so, to me, that is a tremendous advantage. And also, I know that Senator Lindsey Graham is supporting Tim Scott, and he's the ranking member on Judiciary. Cory Booker, the lead in the Senate, and I know that Dick Durbin, who is the chair of the Judiciary Committee, is supportive. So I think that everything is set, but we do need our leadership to formally announce the beginning of negotiations. And again, I hope that that's within days. And then also our conversations with Republicans in the House have been very strong. Pete Staupper, who is a former police officer from Minnesota, Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, Josh Gottheimer from the Problem Solvers. All of these folks have been working together and talking, and I do think that the will is there. And certainly the verdict is an inspiration, but you know, Jonathan, I'm not going to relax until the sentence happens, because the rare times there are guilty verdicts, then I don't want to see a slap on the wrist. I want to see maximum time spent behind bars.
In a town where negotiations rarely happen, and when such a contentious issue, there's such polar opposites when it comes to the parties, Hearing you, that last answer actually makes me even more hopeful today than I've ever been that the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act can actually become law. Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday Show.
Thanks for having me on, Jonathan.